When a dream wedding turns into a nightmare, a group of 5 girlfriends must fight to survive in the middle of open water. Couple Meg and Kayla have their hands clasped together as they walk, talking about their friend who just got proposed to by her boyfriend. They passed by a group of homophobic female thugs who made fun of the two of them, and Kayla flipped them off as they got past them. One of the thugs then pulled Meg by the hair and threw her to the ground, where the rest ganged up on her. Kayla ran down to help her, screaming for the thugs to stop, but one of the thugs was pushing her back. A year later, an anxious Meg had just landed and was miffed when she realized that Kayla was the one picking her up. Meg and Kayla haven't seen each other since Meg left. After that night, when she got beaten to a pulp by a group of thugs, Meg and Kayla's relationship ended, and Meg distanced herself from Kayla. Now they meet again a year later to attend the wedding of Lizzie, one of their best friends, and Dominic, Lizzie's fiancé and the brother of Cam, another one of Meg and Kayla's best friends. Reaching their destination, Meg reunited with the rest of their friends, Lizzie, Cam, and another one of their best friends, Ruth. Meg attended a small formal party with her best friends, the groom and bride's families, and by night, the 5 friends spent the night partying. The next morning, Cam woke Meg up and told her about their plan for a little getaway with the bride, as it was the last day they would spend together before Lizzie spends a lifetime in a marriage. The group of 5 went to the decks and climbed aboard the rust bucket boat that Cam borrowed for their little adventure. Cam confiscated everyone's phones and steered the boat fast. Sometime later, they reached an island that Cam learned about from the beach resort's assistant manager. Kayla was the first to go down the boat, and the others urged Meg to do the same. Once the 2 ex-couples were off the boat, Cam reversed the boat, and Ruth explained that they were just going to leave the 2 alone for a while so they could talk things through. Instead of talking, Meg and Kayla just sat there and did their own thing, while Cam, Lizzie, and Ruth were on the other side of the island, waiting for the 2 exes to finish their supposed talk. Cam went snorkeling and dove deeper when she found a doll underneath a rock. A shadow loomed over her, and Cam was startled upon seeing a stingray. She resurfaced and went back to the shore where Ruth and Lizzie were. Meanwhile, Meg and Kayla decided to swim their way to the other side of the island, where the others are. Kayla was trying to talk to Meg and apologize for getting her beaten up a year ago, as it was really her fault for provoking the thugs. Meg was unresponsive at first, not really wanting to talk to Kayla after the traumatizing event she had to go through because of her, but soon relented and finally responded. The conversation started off light until they finally let go of the awkwardness and closed the distance between them. Meg and Kayla were so busy in their own world that they remained unaware of the looming danger lurking underwater. Meg and Kayla reached the other side of the island, where the others were, and decided to play a little prank. They were holding hands as they approached their 3 best friends and asked Lizzie if she would agree with a double wedding. Cam and Ruth cheered in happiness, and Lizzie promised to talk to Dominic about it. Ruth was still dancing around when she felt a sudden pain in her leg. The others were confused when Ruth suddenly became silent, but that silence was soon replaced with a scream when Ruth found herself bleeding so much. Meg and Cam immediately pulled her to the shore, and they were all horrified at the sight of Ruth's leg. A small portion of her leg had been bitten off. Lizzie figured that it was a shark, and she cried upon realizing that Cam had brought them to shark-infested waters the day before her wedding. Cam asked her to calm down so they could help Ruth and asked for a scarf that she wrapped around Ruth's leg. They carried Ruth to the boat, and Lizzie used Cam's phone to call Dominic and get an ambulance ready for them at the dock. However, there was no signal. Lizzie started the engine and drove the boat back to the dock. Cam was becoming more worried as the time passed as she tried to help Ruth as much as she could. But Ruth had lost a lot of blood, and if they didn't get her to the hospital as soon as possible, she would die. Lizzie speeds up the boat, and Cam tells her to slow down, but she can't hear Cam's words clearly. By the time that Cam had yelled at her to stop the boat, the bottom of the boat had crashed against a reef and put a hole in the lower side of it. Meg tried to block the hole with a cloth, but was still unable to stop the water from getting in. The fear and worry were causing everyone to get agitated, and Cam took most of the blame as she was the one who brought them to an unknown island in the first place. Cam lifted Ruth's leg up while Kayla searched around the boat for life jackets. However, there was only one life jacket, and Cam felt immensely guilty for not being well prepared before even taking her friends into the middle of nowhere. Meg put the life jacket on Ruth, and they huddled around her as the boat started filling up with water. Lizzie, on the other hand, stayed seated on her spot with her eyes closed, humming as the panic was setting in. Meg, Kayla, and Cam tried to talk to her, but Lizzie was too scared to respond properly. After a few more seconds of humming, Lizzie admitted that she didn't know how to swim, and the last time she tried to learn, she was young and almost drowned. Kayla gave her a buoy and reassured her that she would be safe as long as she held onto it and tread the water at the same time. Kayla then jumped into the open sea and helped Meg and Cam carry Ruth as the boat completely sank, leaving them stranded in the middle of the open sea. Lizzie was tightly clinging onto Meg and unintentionally pushed the ladder underwater, causing the girl to get a glimpse of the traumatic event she went through. Meg resurfaced, ignoring her own fear, and Lizzie apologized. Kayla was trying to call for help, but her drenched phone wasn't working anymore, and she threw it away in frustration. After some time, Cam almost drowned because of a cramp, but managed to get over it. Meanwhile, Meg was reassuring Lizzie that she would be fine, and the latter decided to talk about their double wedding to get her mind off the fear. Kayla admitted that the double wedding was just a prank, and she and Meg weren't actually back together. Cam then felt something on her leg and accused Lizzie of kicking her, but Lizzie didn't kick her, and they were horrified at the sight of a shark circling around them. Lizzie reassured them that it would be fine and that the shark might just be curious. She explained how she used to watch shark documentaries with her father before, and sharks are likely to get curious and investigate. However, Ruth was bleeding, and Meg knew that it might be what attracted the shark. Meg didn't want to take any chances and told Cam to get the knife in case the shark got too close. The shark leaves, and Lizzie instructs them to punch the shark's nose, eyes, or gills if it comes back. Everyone laughed when Lizzie told them how her father was so paranoid about global warming and made them extra prepared for anything that might happen, including a shark attack. While they were joking around, Kayla noticed that Ruth had been extremely still for a while now, and when they checked her, their hearts broke upon realizing that Ruth was gone. Cam willed herself to stay tough, and seeing the blood still leaking out of Ruth's leg, she suggested getting rid of Ruth's body as it might either become a hindrance or bring them into more danger. Kayla and Lizzie were upset at the thought of leaving their best friend behind, but Meg, despite the sorrow she was feeling, agreed. Cam whispered her apologies while Meg was taking the life jacket off of Ruth, and they painfully watched as Ruth floated away before getting eaten by the shark. Lizzie wore the life jacket, and Cam suggested that one of them would swim north to find the nearest landing and get some help. Kayla decided that she'd go, and Meg tried to tell her how she truly feels for her in fear of not having another chance to speak up. However, Kayla stopped her, telling her to confess her feelings once they're all safe and sound before swimming away. Meg, Cam, and Lizzie spent a long time waiting, and the sun was about to go down. Meg was floating on her back and had strayed a bit far away from Cam and Lizzie, who were arguing. Lizzie was worried about Kayla, and she wanted to tell Meg the truth about Kayla. Meg swam closer to the two, and Lizzie explained to her the truth that she didn't get to know because of what happened a year ago. Kayla had actually planned on proposing to her the night of the attack, but then Meg got attacked, and Dominic stole her thunder by proposing to Lizzie. Meg was surprised to hear this and swam away in hopes of following Kayla and talking to her. Cam chased after her to stop her, unaware of the shark behind her. Lizzie saw the shark following Cam, and she screamed to warn Cam and also distract the shark. But it was too late, as the shark had made a cut on Cam's arm, and Cam realized that she had basically been marked because the shark had already gotten a taste of her blood. Cam swam away from Meg to not put her in any danger, and she waited for the shark with a knife in her hand. But she couldn't even do a little damage to the shark, as the beast had gobbled her up. Lizzie cried as she felt the regret of everything she had said to Cam before the shark stole her life, and Meg embraced her. After some time, the exhaustion was already hitting them, but Meg still suggested swimming so they could at least get closer to the land. But Lizzie advised that it was better to stay put, so once Kayla gets some help, they'll know where to find them. Then they saw a yacht approaching. They screamed to get the attention of its passengers. But the music playing on the yacht was too loud, and their screams remained unheard as the yacht just passed them by. Lizzie was frustrated by how ignorant rich people are, and Meg hugged her to calm her down. They went back to just floating in the middle of nowhere until the sky turned dark. As if it weren't enough, it just had to rain, and Lizzie joked about how she's going to be so furious if she gets struck by lightning. Amidst the storm, they lost the boy they were sharing, and Lizzie held onto Meg tightly. After a while, the storm calmed down, and the sea was peaceful again. Meg was floating on her back and was falling asleep when Lizzie woke her up. Seeing her struggling to swim, Lizzie held onto Meg and offered to give her the life jacket. But Meg refused, as Lizzie didn't even know how to swim, and Lizzie apologized for the situation they were in, feeling responsible for allowing her best friends to suffer. Now that they had already lost two of their best friends, and there was still no sign of Kayla, Lizzie was afraid of losing Meg the same way she lost Ruth and Cam. Meg had fallen asleep due to exhaustion, and Lizzie put something inside her pocket before embracing her tightly. When Meg woke up, the sun was already rising. Lizzie was nowhere to be found, and she was wearing the life jacket Lizzie was wearing. Meg took off the life jacket and dove underwater in hopes of finding Lizzie, but to no avail. She wore the life jacket again and stared into the sky as she silently mourned for another friend. Though she didn't see what happened to Lizzie, it didn't take Meg long to figure out that Lizzie had sacrificed herself in order to keep her afloat. If she simply drowned and sank or got eaten by the shark, Meg didn't know, and she didn't even want to think about it. Meg decided that now that she's all alone, she can't just stay still and wait for the shark to prey on her. But she didn't even get far before the shark showed up again. The shark headed straight towards her, and just as the shark bared its razor teeth, Meg threw a punch that sent the shark away. Meg laughed when she realized that Lizzie's advice actually worked, but she was quieted down when she found that the shark had wounded her hand. She lifted her hand up to not let the blood get into the water and looked around in hopes of finding anything that might help. That's when she found a stack of stones in the middle of the ocean. Meg took off the life jacket and rubbed her blood all over it before throwing it as far as she could to distract the shark. She then rushed to swim towards the stack of stones, while the shark followed the smell of the blood before changing directions to get Meg instead. Meg was able to get on top of the stack of stones before the shark could get her, and the sharp stone made a cut on her leg. She took off her shirt and wrapped it around her hand, then just laid there with her injured hand in the water. Sometime later, the white cloth around her hand had turned red due to the blood, and it was mixing with the water, catching the shark's attention. Before it could get her hand, Meg sat up and dodged. The sun was going down, and Meg realized that the tide was rising. In addition to that, the shark had also brought a friend. The tide kept on rising, and it won't take long before Meg becomes fish food. At a distance, Meg sees Kayla coming back with help, and she is troubled about the next course of action she should take. The sharks, seemingly having realized that their food finally had a chance of escaping, became more aggressive as they pounced on Meg. Meg jumped into the ocean at the same time the sharks jumped on her and swam towards the boat Kayla was on. Kayla then helped her up, and Meg fell on the boat's floor, barely dodging the shark's razor teeth. Kayla asked for Cam and Lizzie, and with a shake of Meg's head, Kayla didn't need any more words to know what happened. Meg felt something inside her pocket and pulled it out to see the friendship bands Lizzie had been meaning to give all four of them at her wedding, but didn't get the chance to. Kayla embraced Meg, and the latter leaned onto her as they cried over the friends they lost.